Airlines are cracking down on passengers at the gate and often forcing them to check bags, sometimes at a huge cost. Today, we are looking at these new carry-on changes and what they will mean for you on your next trip. I'll also give you 12 solid solutions to these new carry-on regulations, including some sneaky, but totally legit, strategies for avoiding airline fees. Let's do this. Flight prices surged after the pandemic, but they have since leveled off. And in fact, they are down 6% since last year. So why doesn't it feel that way? Well, it turns out that even the major airlines are following the trends set by some of the smaller, low-cost carriers who have built their businesses around a la carte fees. So while your actual flight ticket may be cheaper, depending on your luggage choices, your overall cost of flying could be up. Here's the rub. When an airline knows they can get extra money from you in baggage fees, they're going to start scrutinizing your luggage more. And the luggage that they are scrutinizing the most is what you're carrying onto the plane. This includes not just your carry-on luggage, but also your personal item. More and more airlines are weighing your luggage, and some are getting downright nasty at the gate, forcing people to check their luggage and pay extra penalties and fees to do so. Last year, a low-cost airline in the United States went a bit viral for unfairly forcing passengers to check their carry-on bags and pay extra fees. Rumor has it that the gate attendants were being paid a commission for every bag that they checked and collected fees for. Now, I believe they caught enough fire that this is no longer the case, but there's no denying that the industry is changing, and some of our tricks to get our stuff onto the plane aren't necessarily working anymore. In the next few minutes, I'm going to dig into specific changes to airline luggage policies and what that means for you on your next trip, along with some solutions to recent restrictions that will increase your chances of getting through unscathed. For travelers trying to maximize their carry-on allowance, the skies are a little less friendly these days. Tightened enforcement on carry-on items is happening across the board. And it's not just about size or weight anymore, it's also about some commonly accepted loopholes disappearing. In my very popular episode about how to avoid carry-on baggage fees, I discuss a few popular hacks like bringing a small hip pack or a pillow stuffed with clothing, which have historically been considered personal apparel, and they haven't counted towards your carry-on luggage or personal item limitations. Many people also commented on that episode with their own clever hacks, the most popular of which is to carry a shopping bag from a store or restaurant in the airport. The idea is that airport purchases don't count towards luggage limits, and at the gate, they have no way of telling whether you got that bag at the airport or brought it to the airport with extra stuff in it. All this is changing. Some airlines are cracking down on all of these extra items and strictly enforcing a 2-bag limit, or in some cases, even a 1-bag limit. Frequent flyers are reporting more and more that people are being forced to consolidate everything into these 1 or 2 allowable bags. If you can't do it, then it can go one of a few ways. If you're lucky, they'll gate check your carry-on luggage for free and you're good. But they might force you to pay to check that bag. And worst case scenario, if you give them a really hard time about it and you refuse to pay the fees, they can prevent you from boarding at all. It happened a couple of times last year, and because of the circumstances, it made news. Now, I wouldn't worry about this happening if I were you, but this does underscore the importance of knowing and sticking to the airline's rules and regulations, because in some cases, they're not going to look the other way the way they once did. A perfect example is Southwest Airlines, long celebrated for its 2 free checked bag policy. But recently they threw passengers a bit of a curveball. Despite their historically generous baggage allowance, they began enforcing a rule that pillows, blankets, and even the humble fanny pack would be counted towards the sacred 2-bag allowance. They're not alone either. Other airlines have followed suit, and they're streamlining their carry-on procedures, which is forcing us as travelers to think twice about exactly what we carry on board. Aside from any potential cash grab opportunities, there are 3 main reasons for this shift in airline regulations. One is overhead bin space. With more and more travelers going with carry-on luggage only, overhead bin space has been squeezed to its limits. And the amount of space available depends entirely on the type of aircraft flying that route. Some airplanes have plenty of room, both overhead and below the seats. Others Not so much. Many airlines have been promising to upgrade the interiors to include larger overhead bins. It's happening, but not as quickly as we would like, with supply chain issues and other challenges. But overhead bin space isn't the only factor here. The other one is boarding times. Have you ever heard those gate announcements that there's not enough overhead bin space and that they're looking for volunteers to check their carry-on luggage for free? And then you get on the plane and there's tons of overhead bin space? That's one scenario that might indicate that they're trying to streamline the boarding process. When passengers bring fewer bags into the cabin, boarding becomes significantly faster. Passengers spend less time futzing about in the aisle, trying to find space for their carry-on items, etc. This efficiency is crucial for airlines because minimizing the time that an aircraft spends at the gate directly impacts operational costs and scheduling. Shaving even a few minutes off boarding times can lead to substantial savings and more on-time departures. The third reason they're getting stricter at the gate, believe it or not, is because of online check-ins. Many people are circumventing the check-in counter by checking in online or at the automated kiosks. And most security lineups, with very few exceptions, don't monitor or restrict what you bring through. This means if you brought luggage that's too large to fit in the plane, the first and only place it's being checked by an official is at the gate. And the biggest time waster in the boarding process, which affects all of us, is carry-on luggage that is too large for the overhead bins, or too many people bringing too much stuff to actually fit on the plane. Let's now look at 12 practical solutions to make sure everything that you plan to carry on actually gets on the plane with you. The first and most important way to make sure you don't get stung at the gate is to know exactly what the airline allows. If you have a ticket with multiple airlines, even though you book the ticket with one airline, go to both of the airlines' websites to check their baggage rules and make sure that your stuff fits the strictest of the rules. The same goes for international and domestic flights. I recently flew on a ticket that involved both a transatlantic flight and a flight within Europe. Even though it was with the very same airline, the European leg had stricter rules due to it being a smaller plane. And remember, last year's rules might not be this year's rules. Even if you've flown with this airline before, check again to make sure that you know their latest regulations. Wear clothing with pockets and use those pockets wisely. You may not be able to get a hip pack or pillow or a shopping bag through, but the fashion police has not yet arrived to the scene of the crime of filling our pockets. In some of my other episodes, some viewers have discussed wearing gardening vests or fishing vests, which have a multitude of pockets in them. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that look, but it is a budget option that will get you through. If you have a bigger budget for something specifically designed to help you travel smart and securely, then check out Scotty Vest. They have a multitude of clothes for women and men that are full of pockets to help you carry more. This vest is their signature style, but they have all kinds of jackets, pants, dresses, shirts, hoodies, wraps, and more. Their clothing is designed to keep bulging pockets to a minimum and to distribute the weight so that you're balanced and low profile. It's a bit sneaky, but if you've got a black backpack and you're wearing dark clothing, it tends to be less conspicuous and thus less likely to get spotted as being potentially oversized. Compression packing cubes can also be a game changer because it allows you to squeeze more of your stuff into a smaller space. But just remember, if you use a lot of compression cubes and you pack your bag super full, you might find yourself up against the weight limitations. The best way to get your stuff on the plane is still giving the check-in counter a wide berth. By checking in online, you can get all the way to the gate without anybody scrutinizing your luggage. If instead you use the check-in counter, they may ask to see your carry-on luggage and your personal item, and they may require you to put it in a sizer or on a scale. Also, don't get to the gate too early and don't crowd the gate. While boarding early is a legitimate strategy to get your bag into the overhead bin before it fills up, if you're waiting near the gate, you increase your chances of the staff approaching you to gate check your bag. Consider making your luggage and or your personal item soft-sided. It's easier to squish soft-sided luggage into the sizers and ultimately into the overhead bin or under the seat. And in my experience, it also tends to be lower profile. It just looks smaller. I traveled for years with this soft-sided carry-on case that is the maximum allowable size, and in some cases was actually oversized, but not once did it ever get spotted or gate checked. I have a lot to say about the hard shell versus soft-sided debate in another episode, which I will link to in the description and the first comment. Okay, this is a cheeky suggestion, but it works a charm. Most of my long-haul flights are in business class for less than economy prices. I do this by strategically accumulating and using frequent flyer miles, which you can learn about in another episode I have that is all about travel hacking. One of the many perks of flying in business class is that you can sometimes bring more stuff on board. Even when I fly on airlines with a strict 1 or 2 bag rule, I almost always have an extra bag. It's a small, low-profile bag like this one, which holds my passport, wallet, phone, and other essentials that I want on my body at all times on travel days. The trick is, if they're strict at the gate, I always have enough room in my personal item bag to consolidate and fit this inside. Easy peasy. And while you might not want to gate check your carry-on luggage, the more prepared you are for that possibility, the easier it will be for everybody. This means if you have things that can't go into the hold, like prescription medications and electronics and valuables, you already have them in your personal item bag that you'll take on the plane with you. If you're traveling with just one bag and that bag needs to be checked, then bring along a packable backpack, like this one, that you can put your most important items into so you can take this on the plane. Certain items, like things with lithium batteries, can't go into the cargo hold for safety reasons. Other items, like medical devices or equipment, can't be checked for your own safety. Understanding what the airline will and won't allow will help you advocate for your rights in case you are fully entitled to bring that item on the plane with you. If you politely explain what's inside your bag and why it can't be checked, and if you legitimately can't take it out of that bag for whatever reason, then the airline should respect your needs. Hopefully. I travel with a few really cool gadgets like this and this that save a ton of space and are super multifunctional on the road. So check out this video next to learn more about them and to keep traveling smart in style. I'm Nora Dunn, aka the Professional Hobo, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.